Prayer, praise, and tweets. Oh my, that definitely sounds like an unlikely combination. But in today's world of new media, churches and places of worship are looking at new ways to get their message out there. What is new media, and how can it be most effective? And what are the pros and cons to utilizing it? Today, we're talking to a group of leaders in praise and media who share their thoughts and insights as we explore the evolving climate of worship and the use of new media and television. Welcome to our 25th anniversary industry conversation, High Tech Praise.
DCTV proudly presents its speaker series. This dynamic series of panel discussions will engage dialogue that explores television and media industry with the nation's leading experts. These interactive forums were created to facilitate conversations which are important to you. So join us for a unique insider's perspective, and it all starts right now.
Welcome, members and viewers. I'm Reverend Sylvia E. Sumter. We're celebrating DCTV's 25th year of service to the community. And tonight, we're hosting our fourth and final industry conversation about places of worship and their use of new media and television. You can find out more about DCTV's upcoming 25th anniversary activities by visiting dctv.org. And don't forget to share your thoughts about this topic on Twitter at #IndustryConvo. Later in the show, we'll be taking questions from the audience. We're joined today by Matt Anderson, Manager of Technical Ministries of Reed Temple North. Thank you, Matt, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And we also have with us Miss Iris Skinner, Director of Marketing and Public Relations of First Baptist Church of Glen Arden. Welcome, Iris.
Thank you.
Yes. And lastly, but never least, we have Mr. Curtis Conyers, Jr., Media Director at Mount Enon Baptist Church. And welcome, Curtis.
Thank you very much.
Let's jump right into it. Why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourselves and the role that media plays in what you do?
You want to start with me? Okay.
Sure.
Well, as Manager of Technical Ministries for Reed Temple, we're one church in two locations. We've got a satellite church that I serve as the primary manager for in the Technical Ministries area in Silver Spring, Maryland. But our main campus is in Glendale, Maryland, where Reverend Dr. Lee P. Washington serves as the senior pastor. The executive minister where I am in Silver Spring is Reverend Matthew Watley. And we're a very technical ministry. Both locations are very technical. We're very tapped into what's happening as far as broadcast, as far as television and radio, and of course new media, which encompasses the web. That means, you know, Twitter, that means Instagram, that means Facebook, that means YouTube, any other kind of way where we can reach people, whether it be streaming or recorded media online. So what we do is we try to just make sure we encompass everything, capturing what happens not only in the services, but also in outside ministry opportunities where we can communicate the truth of God's love to this world and this troubled generation in a way that's loving, but creative and innovative. We don't want to be that old storefront, even if we are a storefront. We want to make sure that we're able to tap into it, because the average person is going to pick up their cell phone or their tablet and look at something that's either television-based or radio-based. It's an audio or video medium that they can capture the information that we're sharing with them. So that's really what we do, is to try to take all those things and make them consistent across all platforms.
Wow, wonderful. And just jump right in whenever you feel, Ms. Skinner. Or
Sure. Well, at First Baptist Church of Glen Arden, under the leadership of Pastor John K. Jenkins Sr., we have a consortium of media that we use, from the web, live streaming. In addition to that, we also have a new app we're proud of. We do broadcasts. We're on TV on Saturdays. We have a broadcast on Saturdays on 2 stations here in the area. And we just do a number of media mixes. So we have a marketing mix that's just not one traditional means of communication, but we have traditional communications as well as new media. And so we are able to reach all folks, whether they are locally here in this area or whether they're across the globe. We do have people who tune in to our services in all parts of the country, all parts of the world.
Pretty much the same. I'm with Mount Enon Baptist Church under the leadership of Delman Coates, Pastor Delman Coates. And one thing that Pastor Coates wanted to do when I'm the new kid on the block, so I've been here about 1.5 years. Left here from Bishop Noel Jones Church out of California. And basically what we do at Mount Enon is we try to conceptualize, and we try to bring all those different medias together into one. So you have, I mean, just like everybody else said, we have Twitter, you have Instagram, you have Facebook, we have Chatroll. I think out of all those different medias, Chatroll is probably the most significant, because what I love about Chatroll is the point that you can actually talk or text to. You have a room where you can Chatroll, you can text and talk to that individual right there. So whatever's on that person's mind, whatever that person is feeling, you get it right there in real time, or should I say within 30 seconds, because we have a 30-second delay. But I found that to be a very significant part. And the membership, not just since I got there, but another thing I love about Chatroll is the fact that we have never had outside members come to Mount Enon. Now we have a large number of members outside of Maryland. We have members out of California. We even had a member out of China, well, not necessarily a member, but different countries that listen in, because you know, the internet, I mean, it's evolving, it's changing, and you have to keep up with it.
Exactly. There's so many new things out in the marketplace, so how do you adapt to that?
Well, you've got to be credible, consistent, and creative. That's really my mantra. And whether I was doing broadcast radio or television, and then now doing full-time on-staff work with media at Reed Temple, it's always to try to be credible, consistent, and creative. Are you credible because you know the word? Are you rightly dividing the word of truth? Are you consistent in your teaching and in the ways that you serve the community that you're called to serve? But the creative part, I think, is one area where we tend to miss it. The first verb in the Bible is, in the beginning, God created. So are we being creative? So, I'm constantly looking for ways to be able to reach people. The Great Commission is to go ye therefore into all the world. Well, most of us aren't going to ever get a passport and learn a foreign language and get on a plane and fly around the world to do ministry. Well, what better way to reach people than through broadcasting, through media, through television, radio, film, and of course new media, the web. So that I'm constantly looking for the newest, latest gadget. I've been a gadget guy since I was a little kid, so I love pushing buttons, and whether it's cameras, or whether it's cell phones, whether it's recording devices, I'm constantly looking for ways to be able to capture the messages or to tell stories. And in this case, we're talking about biblical stories that are innovative and that are creative. So when the new gadgets come out, I'm constantly plugged into different blogs or websites looking for the newest, latest, brand new. That shiny brand new tends to get me a lot. Like a new car, we get that new car smell, or that new camera smell is what I'm looking for. And so when we find those things, I'm looking for ways, how does it help us to advance the assignment that we've been given? I'm looking, what does Dr. Washington want us to do? What does Reverend Watley want us to do? So I'm like, okay, my job is to help get that message outside of the four walls and capture what does happen inside those four walls in the most technically advanced way, in the most significant way. And when I'm looking at what the mainstream media does, they're doing everything real world. They have the same cameras, the same recording equipment. The message is different. That's the only thing that's different. So why can't we use the same software, same hardware, same creative techniques? And we've got the talent, we've got the tools, we just need to master the techniques to be able to communicate, God's love to this generation.
Wonderful, wonderful. And are you guys able to keep up with all the changing media, the face of media today, and how are you adapting?
Well, for me, I think it's great that Pastor Jenkins is not media phobia. He doesn't have a phobia of media. As a matter of fact, he is a techie. And so he embraces new technology and allows us the creativity to do our jobs. And as you said, Mark, there's so many new trends that are out there. It is sometimes difficult to stay abreast of everything because what's new today may be old tomorrow. And so trying to stay abreast and current but without distorting the word. There's a balance between that, because there is so much that it can become a distraction. So there's a fine line, I believe, with trying to stay abreast with technology, but also making sure that people receive the word, that they can hear the word, that they're not distracted by it.
I think that you have to find your niche, because if you try to keep up with technology, I mean, financially, you'll go broke. You just can't keep up with technology, because soon as the one thing come out, you go get that, there's going to be a new thing coming out within a month. So I just think you have to find your niche, and you have to stay with your niche. It's good, just like you said, Pastor Coates. He also is a visionary. He loves technology. So that makes it a lot easier for me, because if I have to try to push technology on someone who doesn't really understand it, it just makes your job a lot harder.
Well, let me jump in here, because one thing we tend to do is we tend to, like you were saying, is that we go out and buy the latest brand new thing, and we haven't mastered the old thing.
Exactly.
What's that in your hand?
Right.
You know, what is the tool? You know, Moses had that same stick for all these years, and then God put his super on that natural and said, hey, let me master that stick that you have. So what stick do you have already in your arsenal? You may not have a $25,000, $30,000 HD camera, but what can you do with the standard definition camera you have? What can you do with a DSLR, digital single lens reflex camera, which looks like a regular still camera, but it takes phenomenal photographs as well as video now. You can use that for just a couple $1,000s as opposed to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, building a whole studio. So it's maximizing what you already have. Read the manual sometimes. I mean, I'm one of those guys, I like to open up the box and start playing with something, but I'll also go back when I get stuck and say, what else can this thing do? Let me find out, let me go deeper into the menu, let me go deeper into the technology and find out what else it can do. And then, like a doctor, you know, there's certain tools that you use for a certain task. You don't use the same, you know, you don't use a shoe to hammer in a nail into the wall. You can, but you may break your shoe, you may put a hole in the wall, you got it done, but that's not what the shoe was designed for. So you have to have the right tool for the right task. And again, like my brother said here, is making sure you have the right tool at the time for the task. That's really what I think is important.
It's about balancing, because how do you balance all of that, you know, and still remain, as you said, Iris, still remain effective? It's because it can be overwhelming. So have you found that challenging? Because I know that that can be something that, you know, we're trying to do it all, but yet, as you just said, you can't do it all. So how do you really find what's important? What's, you know, that one thing that the niche that you want to put forth? How do you determine that?
Well, you got to find what the vision is. I mean, you got to know what the vision is for the particular house. If we're talking about high-tech praise, you know, and we're talking about houses of worship, how they communicate the message that they've been given, well, you've got to tap into the visionary of the house. What is the pastor's vision? What is he? Is it evangelism? Is it trying to reach homeless persons? Are you trying to reach youth? You know, the way that you approach youth ministry is different than trying to reach seniors. You know, you're not going to be, yo, what up, talking to seniors. That's just, you know, and if you come across very articulate and very, you know, with very precise English with some young folks, they may not receive what you have to say. So you've got to be cutting edge and realizing, declaring the end from the beginning, knowing who your audience is. Speak to your audience and then use the methodology. A lot of times what churches tend to do is answer questions that aren't being asked. And I think that we also go a little further with that. We tend to try to reach audiences that are the wrong audiences for what we're called for. So how do you reach them? If you're trying to reach them with a certain technology and you take 30 minutes to reach them with a YouTube video, when in fact the average person is watching YouTube for 2 minutes. You know, I put up a video once with a review of a Nicki Minaj video when she was on the Grammys or something, and I basically just had a biblical worldview of what she did, and I basically just offered a critique from that particular perspective. I took 60 seconds to critique it on my iPhone, no high-tech production. I put it up. Then I had another one where I had a whole message where I'm behind a pulpit and I'm being deep and all this in 30 minutes and all the bells and whistles and lower thirds and graphics, and I got maybe 69 views. Well, the Nicki Minaj video got 69,000 views in like 2 days.
Yes.
And it's understanding what the audience is. One, less is more many times when you're dealing with new media.
With new media, yes, wonderful, yeah. So, you know, because these are such unconventional ways for the majority of pastors and ministries at this particular point, so what do you see the overall goal? I know that it is to put the word out there, but what do you see the overall goal and purpose of utilizing these tools? What would you say that would be?
The overall goal, I think it's the same to me. I think it's to save souls. I mean, no matter what technology you're using, it's just a better way to get it out there, because you're touching more people, so therefore you have the opportunity to touch more souls. That's how I look at it. I mean, it's just like every Sunday when I read what the individuals have to say about a church service, or they've been touched by this, they've been touched by that, or they no longer do the things that they used to do. I mean, to me, that's a brownie point, because even if it's one person I know you want more, but if it's that one person, to me,
yes,
that's a successful Sunday for me, because you have touched that person. You didn't know you was going to touch that person in that way, and then you start getting letters, and all of a sudden you're getting letters. This person has been touched by this and that, and you just have to live what you preach. If you know, because I've been at several churches, and if you're not living what you preach, or at least trying to live what you preach, because everybody out here, you're trying to live, you're trying to, I mean, we're human. So we're not Jesus, so we're not gonna have that Bible down packed like Jesus had. I mean, we're gonna make mistakes, you know, that's why you have to ask for forgiveness. But you just try to live what you preach. And when you do get those individuals, you have to be sincere, and you have to be concerned about, you know, what you're delivering and what you're getting back.
I can say for me as a director of marketing and public relations, we have a three-pronged approach, and it's to inform, inspire, and educate.
I like that. Inform, inspire, and educate. Yes.
Because
that's clear purpose.
There's some people who will never step foot in a church, but they may catch you on YouTube. I see the emails where people will say, oh, I'm in California and I saw your Tasha Cobb's video on YouTube and it was so uplifting and inspiring. And so that's really our goal, because we're bringing the gospel to people.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll hear more from our wonderful panel. And don't forget to join the conversation. Hashtag Industry Convo.
DCTV is illuminating the city with its 25th anniversary celebrations. That's right, we said celebrations because we're celebrating the entire year with amazing events for everybody. That means we're celebrating the entire year? Check out the events.
Concerts featuring major recording artists, celebrity-hosted game nights, flash mob events, mouth-watering food festivals, and so much more. And each event is free.
Free is my favorite word. For more information about our year full of events, log on to DCTV.org or just watch the channel. Look forward to seeing you there. Turn up.
Check it out. Saturday, June 21st is DCTV's Community Day Festival
with performances by
the Chuck Brown Band, Afro-Funk Band Chopped Teeth, and gospel artist Mike McCoy and Voices United,
along with
comedian Timmy Hall, musician W. Ellington Felton, DJ Mark Infinite, violinist Chelsea Green, the Fairfield Con Youth Ensemble, along with dancing, food, and fun, and everything is free.
Free is my favorite word. For more information about our year full of events, log on to DCTV.org or just watch the channel. Look forward to seeing you there. Turn up.
Welcome back. We're here with Iris Skinner, Curtis Conyers Jr., and Matt Anderson talking about houses of worship and their use of new media and television. So, what are some of the greatest successes you've had using media and video?
Where can we start?
Yeah, right.
Or even social
Well, I think
media.
Curtis touched on it a little bit earlier in the previous segment where he talked about how people will respond right away. I think that that's an important thing to be able to take advantage of, because with Twitter or Facebook or any of the other social media platforms, you get an immediate response. Whereas with broadcast, whether it be television or radio, unless it's live, you're not going to get an immediate response. And then if your audience is not listening to the radio or they're not watching a live broadcast, they missed you, or they have to go back and watch a rerun. But with, if I send someone a picture, a text, or if I put it up on Facebook, they're going to give me an immediate response. I mean, I've been in the supermarket, tired and worn out from coming from the gym looking crazy, and I'm in there trying to get some groceries, and somebody, hey, I'm your Facebook friend. I'm like, oh, you are? And I got to pull it together. But it's that kind of response that you'll get. So when it comes to ministry, you've got an opportunity to reach people immediately. You don't know who you're reaching. I've got Facebook friends from South Africa, from China, from all over the world, all over the world. And I'm like, okay, how do we take advantage of that as a ministry? If I look at a ministry that has 5,000 members and they've only got 50 Twitter followers, you got 5,000 members. Okay, maybe you've got some seniors or some people who are just not tech savvy and they don't do Twitter. But you should have a whole lot more than 50 followers if you've got 5,000 regular. I don't mean people just on the roll. I'm talking about regular attendees. They're serving some capacity of ministry. You have to remind your audience, just like you just reminded us, hashtag Industry Convo. You've got to create those hashtags or concepts where people can find you in the social space.
I would just add too, we had a recent success story with our Good Friday service. We did our standard social media promos, we did our radio broadcast, and we had a dramatization on Good Friday. And when I did a Facebook boost with the ad, that's a paid ad, people started writing back, where are you located from? I'm in Delaware, I'm in Pennsylvania. And it was phenomenal, the feedback that we received. So I talked to the director of the production after it was over, and he said, Miss Iris, he said the line was stretched all the way down to the gravel of the parking lot, and this was before the doors had even opened to, you know, let people in.
Wow.
And so that just goes to show, just with a simple $50 ad boost on Facebook, it reached much broader than our normal 15,000 followers on Facebook.
I'll have to learn more about that. Curtis, what are some of the challenges that you might face, the greatest challenge you might face using social media?
You know, I haven't actually not had any major challenges. I think it has made my life easier because, I mean, it's so many ways that you can get in touch with individuals. I can't, the things that we are doing now with social media, I mean, like my son, I got a son, 24 years old, and I mean, it's like texting. I was telling Matt earlier today about texting. You know, I didn't used to text at all. You know, now he'll be in his room in the house and he'll text me, Dad, what we eating? And I'm like, and he can hear me if I holler out. You know, so I holler out, dude, why you texting me? What you mean what we eating? You know, it's just the fact that the kids they have made this thing so phenomenal. They really have. They really have. So we're actually taking from them. To be honest, we're taking from them because as adults, that's not where we were at. So as far as I haven't really had that many challenges. It's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to be able to reach individuals the way we can reach them now. Because 5-10 years ago, this was never possible. Never possible at all. And now, if you can just show something on the stream, and you turn around and get 1,000 people responding to that, that's just amazing to me.
You know, it's funny to me, I think about how sometimes one of the ministers will text me, literally, from the pulpit. I may be in the back at what's called front of house audio, or I may be dealing with lighting, because I tend to float around a lot as a manager. I kind of cover every area.
During service.
Right, during service. He's about to get up. I had him text me in the middle of a message. Now, he's preaching, he's got his iPad, he's going, and he's got the people in high praise, and this man just texted me. That boy is smooth. He texted me in the middle of a message. And I said, wow. But I was able to respond quickly and get it done. But on the other hand, the challenge with it, I guess one of the bad parts is you can tend to rely on it. What if your internet service provider goes down, or your Wi-Fi service goes down and you can't get it through? He's thinking I'm getting it and I didn't get it. So we can tend to kind of rely on those things. So I think it's important to make sure that we're preparing ahead of time, whether it's our PowerPoint presentations or video presentations in the services, or whether it's the web streaming. It's making sure that you're preparing ahead of time for mistakes. Just like you don't drive a car without a spare tire, you always want to make sure you got some sort of backup that will kind of help you.
Wonderful. So, do you worry, I heard you mention streaming, do you worry about old school parishioners who perhaps have not caught on with this new media or social media? Is there a concern that you have, that they might have, that if somehow you go to live streaming, that people won't come and participate, or that the church won't grow as much?
Well, there's some people who are just not going to do it. I mean, I understand. I mean, my mother, you know, she's got an iPhone and finally got her an iPhone a couple of years ago. And I'll text her, and it'll be 2-3 days before she responds to the text. So I'll just call her. I'll send her a text, and I'll just wait and see. Is she getting it yet? Okay, so an hour goes by. Mom, did you get my text? Oh, no, my phone is sitting right here. That's not part of her generation, and it's not to say anything about that other generation, because I know people who are in their 70s who text and Facebook and all these other things, but you have to know who your audience is. Right. So you have to, I think like Iris said earlier, is take advantage of every one of those platforms. So filling out flyers, doing other sources of things that your budget can afford to do to reach the audience. You have to know where they are. If you're, again, answering questions that people aren't asking, you're just doing yourself a disservice. And the same thing is if you're trying to speak to people and, and you're trying to call someone and they don't have a phone, you have to know who you're calling and the best way to speak. There's a book called The 5 Love Languages, and you have to know who the end user is. What's the best way to reach that person? If you know what their love language is or their communication language is, I'm trying to text to someone and they don't text. What's on you? You have to find out what's the best way to communicate with the person you're trying to reach. And sometimes it's not just an older person, it's just someone who just doesn't want to text. And then you have other ones that they text, they're Facebooking. I mean, I had a person doing business with me recently and they're inboxing me on Facebook. I'm like, can you just send me an email? They don't understand the platform. And I said, okay, that's this person's communication language. So I did the transaction that way, and we set up the meeting, and we were able to accomplish a successful transaction.
So what about if you live stream? Have you noticed any challenges with tithes or people staying away from the church? Or
For us, I can tell you that we have 40% of our tithers that tithe online.
wow.
40%, which is phenomenal.
It is.
And it is good.
That's phenomenal. 40%. I did ask our CFO, and he confirmed 40%, which is unbelievable. So that tells us that the people are not adverse to, paying their tithes online or via the app or the other means that we have available to them to pay their tithes.
Or viewing the church service while home.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I see on Facebook sometimes, you guys may see the same thing too. They'll log in and say, Sunday folks, it's bedtime, it's Bedside Baptist today, and they're logged in and, and sometimes I'll even say an encouraging thing like, if you're in the DMV area, be sure to come to the service at such and such time. And somebody may come and say, well, I can't come out to the service because I'm caring for an elderly parent. So the live stream is a way for them to stay connected without them being disconnected from the word.
Great.
I think it's no different than, social media is no different than the music or the choir at the church, to me, because say like at our church, we try to, should I say diversify? We try to have something for the old, something for the young. I mean, we try to cover all those bases. And just by that increases the congregation, that increases everything, because now you got the old saying, oh, I don't want to come because I got to listen to contemporary. So we satisfy that. You can't satisfy everything, but we try to put those things in place. And then we take what we put in place and put that over the internet, and then they see that. But I really believe that old, young, what have you, they're interested in learning. They're interested in learning. I'm finding out that they're interested in learning. They'll chime in and get on the chat roll. And they may not know what to say. They'll say, okay, how do you do this? And we get a lot of those. And then we'll sit there and walk them through it.
So
and
you
then,
have an opportunity to teach.
Exactly, exactly. So once we walk them through it, then the next thing you know, they done told their friend, Sister so-and-so was on here last week. They get to talking to you like they're on the telephone.
Right.
Sister so-and-so was on here last week, and she told me, and then we say, okay, don't worry. We'll walk you through it. Then once they get on there, they find out they like it. And then if they have an inspiring and uplifting service, I mean, they always come back and it seems like it's enjoyable to them.
Three things that I like are motive, method, and message. If we look at the message, it never changes. I mean, from Genesis to Revelation, it never changes. The word is the word is the word. But what is our motive? Why do we do what we do? Why do we, love Him? We love Him because He first loves us. But the thing that does change is the method. The method changes. It's constantly changing. We're not riding horses. We're not using. I remember my first cell phone was about as big as a shoe. I remember you had to use two hands. I remember that. I remember when TV used to go off.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier.
Yes.
I mean, you used to get the Star Spangled Banner at midnight, and you thought the world was ending as a child. But now it's 24-hour news cycles. 24 hours. You got hundreds of channels, and you probably watch 10. So it's things. The method changes, so we have to adapt to the method, and we have to understand who our audience is on what's the best method for them, and it works. So it's really just a tool. The social media, new media, you know, whatever you're using to reach people with, you know, the message that you've been given. It's just you have to use it as a tool.
Yes.
The interesting thing is we can't put seniors in the box though, because just this past Sunday, I was sitting behind a deaconess and I noticed that she wasn't getting up because she's not able-bodied to get up for, you know, some various parts of the service. And I looked over and she had her iPad. But not only did she have her iPad, she had the bar on it because she was taping the service. And I said, look at her. You know, so you can't put seniors in the box.
No, no, we're all open to learn and grow.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break, and later on in the show, we'll take some questions from the audience. But I don't want you to forget to join the conversation and keep it going by using hashtag #IndustryConvo. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
DCTV is illuminating the city with its 25th anniversary celebrations. That's right, we said celebrations because we're celebrating the entire year with amazing events for everybody. That means we're celebrating the entire year? Check out the events.
Concerts featuring major recording artists, celebrity-hosted game nights, flash mob events, mouth-watering food festivals, and so much more. And each event is free.
Free is my favorite word. For more information about our year full of events, log on to DCTV.org or just watch the channel. Look forward to seeing you there. Turn up.
Check it out. Saturday, June 21st is DCTV's Community Day Festival with performances by the Chuck Brown Band, Afro-Funk Band Chopped Teeth, and gospel artist Mike McCoy and Voices United, along with comedian Timmy Hall, musician W. Ellington Felton, DJ Mark Infinite, violinist Chelsea Green, the Fairfield Youth Ensemble, along with dancing, food, and fun, and everything is free.
Free is my favorite word. For more information about our year full of events, log on to DCTV.org or just watch the channel. Look forward to seeing you there. Turn up.
So welcome back. So now let's keep it real. Are there any cost-saving opportunities using new media? Because it sounds like it could be very costly for certain churches that are not there yet.
I think you have to do your research. There are companies that offer the same services, and you just got to do your cost analysis to see, you know, who's offering the same services at various price points. You know, for instance, we talked about app during the break. There are companies that do apps at all price points, and so the question is, who's going to meet your need based on what you need and based on what your budget is. But there are a lot of companies out here offering very similar packages.
And do your homework. I agree with that. Also talk to some of the other clients that have used their services. Ask not just the good questions, but ask for the bad questions. What horror stories do you have? Ask some of the other clients. For instance, when I purchase equipment, I'm constantly looking not just for the 5-star comments. I'm looking for the 1-star.
Absolutely.
Even though most of them, you know, you might have 100 responses there, and most of them are 4 or 5-star. But I'm looking for that 1 or 2 1-star. What problem did you have that I didn't see with all those favorable reviews? Same thing when you're looking for a streaming service or an app creator or some other kind of service that you're going to have is going to help you advance your new media approach. Find out the horror stories before you jump into it, and then consider, could you afford to take that loss on a Sunday morning?
Not only that, if I found that when you're dealing with the app companies, the streaming companies, things of that nature, I always ask for who are you doing business with? Do you have a number? If they do not want to give you the number,
references, right?
Yeah,
right.
Credible references. If they do not want to give you the number or give you that contact information, then those are the ones I shy away from. The ones that do give you, and you don't want to just get one. You want to get me. I like to get about three, four, five, and then you call those individuals yourself, and that's all the time I make my decision based on that.
And look at some of the bigger ministries. I mean, you may say, okay, I don't have a budget to do it like Bishop Jakes or Joel Osteen or Saddleback Church, but you can at least consider. Because sometimes, some of the people you want to do business with have modular ways of doing it. They have scales or tiers of something that will still fit into your budget. And then you talk about the free way. The free way of doing things. Facebook is free. Okay, I'm an individual. I've got almost 5,000 friends myself, and another 800 followers, and another 600 waiting to follow. And it's just because I haven't had a chance to kind of keep up with it. I'm like, I'm just a guy. What about a whole church that has, 200, 300, 400 members? 5,000 members, 10,000 members, if you constantly remind your audience of the hashtag industry convo or hashtag Ignite 50. You know, that's Reverend Watley's latest series he's doing on prayer is Ignite 50 Days of Prayer. Well, the hashtag is hashtag Ignite 50. So you put that in Twitter or you put it on Facebook and it pops up all the people talking about that topic. So looking at the free ways or the inexpensive ways of getting into that online community.
Great, wonderful. So where do you see the relationship between the church and new media? Where do you see it going next, or the next level of doing worship and ministry using
full broadcast online? I mean, full networks online. I mean, I used to program several radio stations over the years in gospel radio, and one thing, even to this day, I still have artists who will come to me and say, how do I get my song on the radio? I'm like, you're thinking in the past. You're thinking like Barney Rubble. Don't just think broadcast. I mean, it's a great way, but okay, let's do the math. You can only fit maybe 8 to 10, maybe 12 songs in an hour. Gospel song is going to tend to be 4, 5, 6 minutes long. If you do R&B or hip hop, it's going to be 3 minutes long. So you do the math, how many you can fit into 1 hour. Then you've got songs that are in heavy rotation. They're going to play over and over and over again. So you may have 15 artists that are in heavy rotation. Everybody else is kind of get in where you fit in. Well, it's the same thing with television. There's only so many, you know, Creflo Dollars or Joel Osteens or Bishop T.D. Jakes. Where do you fit in to these people who have so-called star power, for lack of a better word? So you have to think about, how do I get in where I can fit in? So you have to consider the other opportunities, the way to get in, and then one of the best ways is with new media, is online. People are getting, Justin Bieber got discovered on YouTube. You know, you look at some of his videos on YouTube, free videos, got hundreds of millions of people watching. Well, why can't you get on there for free and put your message or your things that you're doing in ministry in the community online with an inexpensive $300 or $400 HD portable camera? You can do it. It may not be broadcast quality, but there are a lot of ways that you can do things inexpensively with some of the free portals that are available online.
There's also a new platform, a social media platform that's on the horizon. It hasn't come out yet. It's called ChristTube.com, and it's going to level the playing field for churches. So whether you're a storefront church or whether you're a medium to large size church, it's going to offer the same opportunities for churches to stream their services at a nominal cost. And it hasn't rolled out yet. I think they're still in the beta mode, but once it comes out, it's really going to level the playing field. So you can look like a mega million-dollar church without spending millions of dollars. Everyone does not have the advertising. To be on TV, it's millions of dollars for, for revenue. So everyone's not going to have that opportunity, but this medium, I believe, is going to revolutionize how churches are going to be able to share the gospel through all points of the world.
Wow.
And learning. I mean, I think it's important to learn. I think it's important to know how to operate the technology, operate the cameras, the recording equipment, the editing software. How do I get it online? What is a stream? A stream is just basically a pipe, and you have to be able to look across the horizon. I remember hearing Mark Cuban say something in an interview several years ago where he said he was going to make an investment in a couple of HD online portals, basically buying bandwidth is what he did. Well, he was looking 10 years down the road, and he, of course, made more millions on top of the millions he already has as the owner of the Dallas Mavericks and, one of the creators of Yahoo. He's making a bunch of money. It's because he was able to see past the horizon. If you're waiting for the bandwagon, if you can see a bandwagon, it's too late to get on it. You have to anticipate what's coming across that horizon. Where is don't follow just the crowd. It's the individuals who have these what if moments. What if I could do this, that, or the other? There was a little guy, Mark Zuckerberg, who came up with this little old thing in a college dorm room called Facebook. Now there's 1 billion people. That's the 3rd largest country. If Facebook were a country, it'd be the 3rd largest country in the world, behind China and India. But we're thinking, oh, I don't want to get on there. That's the devil online. No, it's just a tool. It's what you do with that tool that allows you to either reach people with a positive message or a negative message. What are you going to do with it for free?
That's true.
And so I heard you say that you have to make sure that people know how to use the equipment. And so how do you train your people? Because we talked about having volunteers to do a large portion of the work, because you can't necessarily always have paid staff. So how do you do that?
Well, we have an AV ministry. We have an AV ministry at First Baptist, and the AV ministry is comprised of members who are professionals We have people that work at CNN who are in the camera room, in the AV booth, and they also at all levels of expertise. So we have people that are up and coming, they just want to learn the craft. They've got people who are mid-level and trying to hone their skills, and then we do have the professionals. You know, one of the things that Pastor Jenkins says is everything we need is in the house. And that is true, because we do have the expertise, whether they're volunteers or whether they're paid. We have everything we need right there in the house.
I already know what I know. I mean, I want to know what other people know.
Exactly.
When I study filmmakers, I'm not just looking at Spike Lee or Tyler Perry. I think they do great work at what they do. But I'm looking at Ang Lee. I'm looking at Steven Soderbergh. I'm looking at Spielberg. You know, and people say, well, okay, they're doing movies that aren't necessarily Christian or gospel-based. I don't care. The technology is just the technology. I'm looking at Avatar. You know, the producer of Avatar came up with that concept 10 years ago, wrote the script, but the technology did not exist. He put it in a drawer and said, I'm going to wait. Waited 8 years and he said, okay, maybe we're close enough to build some proprietary software that will create this kind of thing I see in my head. He got with some engineers and said, let's get together and let's figure out a way of making this software, this idea that's in my head, come to pass. He sat down with a bunch of smart guys, and the rest is history, one of the biggest movies of all time. So we've got to consider the what ifs. And you know, and as far as training, I think it's important to look at the passion. You can't force someone who wants to work on a camera to go do front of house audio. You can't force someone who wants to do, you know, web, you know, who wants to be behind the camera to be in front of the camera. So you have to find out, first off, what's their passion, and then you can share with them some of the blog posts that are available. There's a lot of free tutorials online. You know, lynda.com is one of them. You can go online on YouTube and find all kinds of tutorials. So you have to find out what the passion is, help point them in the direction of their passion. And then I do some teaching myself. You know, my career for the last 30 years has been regular broadcast, radio and television. And so I kind of learned every aspect of the camera work, of editing, of audio, because I had to. You know, as a small business owner, I had to learn that. So, but then I'm able to take that and teach other people, but I can't teach them everything. So find out the passion, point them in the direction of the passion, and then try to teach those people who are hungry to learn.
And training is key, because you're talking about very expensive equipment.
Yeah. Oh,
So
absolutely.
you can't get in there and start fooling around and pushing the wrong buttons, especially when you're live.
So what do you feel is your hope for where the media can actually take your church?
I just think it's nowhere it can't take it, because I think the sky's the limit. It's what you do with it. It's how you use it to not just benefit yourself, but to benefit, you know, the church. It's the way that, like for example, at our church, when on Sundays when we come in and we get everything set up, and everybody has volunteers. So we have volunteers, and just like you said, we try to make them see their passion, see what they're interested in, and then we concentrate on that particular interest. But as far as the church and where it can go, I don't think there's a ceiling to it, because technology is never going to stop. It's never going to stop. You can go where wherever your mind takes you, that's where you can go with it. So that's kind of like that's a hard question. That's a really hard question, because technology changes every day. So as they change, why can't we change?
I guess you can go as far as your vision.
Exactly, as far as your vision.
Wonderful. Well, next we're going to take some questions from the audience. So I want you to stay tuned, and after this short break, we'll be right back.
Check it out. Saturday, June 21st is DCTV's Community Day Festival, with performances by the Chuck Brown Band, Afro Funk Band Chop Teeth, and gospel artist Mike McCoy and Voices United, along with comedian Timmy Hall, musician W. Ellington Felton, DJ Mark Infinite, violinist Chelsea Green, the Fairfield Khan Youth Ensemble, along with dancing, food, and fun, and everything is free.
Free is my favorite word. For more information about that year full of events, log on to DCTV.org or just watch the channel. Look forward to seeing you there. Turn up.
Welcome back. We have some questions from the audience, so I'm just going to open them up to our panel here. So the first question says, what social media platforms work best for you?
Well, for First Baptist, it's Facebook and Twitter. Those are our two primary channels. We do have a YouTube channel as well, but I would say Facebook, that's where we get the most traffic along with Twitter. And we have a new hashtag on Twitter, FBCG Live, and we are seeing a lot of traffic from that as well, and we hopefully will start to see some trending with that.
I gotta say the same. It's Facebook and Twitter, and then of course we have the built-in chat role. But Facebook and Twitter is probably those are the most ones that are hit from us as well.
Yeah, and I would echo that for Reed Temple AME, and that's that's our hashtag Reed Temple AME, and it's the same thing. I think Facebook and Twitter do the same. Now, one of the challenges I found, I think going back to an earlier question, was different either ministers or members of both campuses of one church in two locations, starting their own YouTube channels, their own Facebook pages that have the guys or you think it's an official Reed Temple page, but it's not. They're just passionate about their ministry or the fact that they're a member or where they serve. And so you see all these different alliterations of what is supposed to be a Reed Temple AME Church official Facebook page or official YouTube channel or official. So we actually had to pull back for a minute and stop everything and start from ground zero and said, let's go through this one channel where we have a social media team in place along with the media and technology folks as well, who come together and say, let's say one thing, one message consistently. So that was one of the challenges I think we had earlier.
And for your Twitter account, so you have a staff of people that actually respond and are live with the Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah, PR team.
You have your PR team.
We call it ours a social media team, about 16 individuals, and they're on the calendar. And on Sundays, they're there at 7:30, 9:30, 11:30, Bible study on Wednesday, and then we, from our services, we always follow up from every service. So, from our Sunday service or Wednesday night Bible study on Thursday, we'll go back and reiterate some of the things that happened during our Wednesday night Bible study, so we can get people talking about it.
Get the conversation
Exactly.
going.
So we have a marketing and PR department with full-time employees. We also recently launched about a month or so ago a social media ministry, and we call those people social missionaries. And so they actually are the ones who tweet, and they use the hashtag FBCG Live.
And are they tweeting during service as well
absolutely.
on Sunday? Great.
Before service, after service, you name it. During service even, probably so as well.
Wonderful.
See, that's where she's blessed,
Well,
because
that's one thing.
we was talking about volunteers.
Yeah, Matthew Watley, he'll do that. Reverend Matthew Watley, he'll tend to start things or start hashtags. He's our executive minister at the North Campus where I serve, and he'll come up with a hashtag, or he'll be in the middle of preaching and say, that's a tweetable one right there. He'll make a comment, and then you'll start watching a hashtag of a particular line he said in the message, and so it lets you know how people are responding. People who weren't there at least can kind of feel a part of it, and then people who are at the service can kind of feel like they're a part of being that social missionary that you talked about.
I like that term.
Yeah.
I have to use that. So the next question from our audience says, has the church organizational structure changed since the implementation of social media?
Yes. Yeah. Well, they've brought on me for one, as a manager of technical ministries, and that's just part of my background in regular broadcast and experience with social media and production and those kinds of things. But there are other people who are passionate about it as well. So they actually bring on staffers now. We've been able to bring on a couple staffers who that's what they do. And then there are also people who are like volunteers who have a passion and have experience in the professional world, perhaps on their job, but now they want to serve in a ministry capacity as a volunteer. And so, yes, it has changed. I mean, that's a whole other element. Think 10 years ago, social media, who was talking about that in church? Nobody was. But it's just another opportunity for people to serve and to get the message out to the masses.
And you have a large staff as well, then.
I wish. I wish. No, I do have a small staff of 4, and we're actually hiring one person soon, I hope.
That's large for some people.
It is large. It is large, and I am grateful. Let me be clear. Pastor Jenkins, I am grateful for every person who is employed in my department, for sure. But again, we are so diversified. We're able to do traditional media. We do, you guys are technology gurus, whereas I do more traditional media, PR, writing, editing, and things of that nature, and I work in collaboration with our AV team. And so we do partner quite a bit with AV, but social media, the website, all of that's owned by marketing and PR.
Okay.
And that's an interesting point she brings up, the importance of us, our two types of roles that play an important, a synergistic relationship that we have. Because we understand the technical stuff. Like I said in the past, I've had to kind of learn from being a programmer in radio and TV and things with production. But also, I understand and value people who know how to write, who know how to communicate, who understand the sales process, who understand, they've been able to master marketplace ministry. A lot of times we can speak to, we can speak in tongues, or we can quote scripture, but we can't speak to a banker.
Right.
Or we can't speak to a producer for a broadcast outlet where we're trying to get our television show on, but we don't understand the terms and technology. So we have to learn those things as well. So it's important to have people who speak that language of the marketplace.
Yes.
Yeah, we're a voluntary-driven church, and I have to say, it's just volunteers are the most important.
Yes.
I mean, I can't say nothing more about volunteers, because they're really what keeps any church running, I think.
Yes.
You know, because most churches can't afford to hire a person in all the different positions that they would need them in. So I take my hats off to them, and it's up to us to do the proper training and make them see that even though it's a voluntary position, it's just as important as if you were getting paid, because if you look at church as per se unprofessional, then you're gonna get that's what you're gonna be giving to the all those listeners and people watching. You're gonna get unprofessionalism. So I just think that as far as the volunteers and the churches, you got to look at the church as, today I consider it a corporation to some extent.
Oh, it is a business.
It's a business.
Yes,
It's a business.
yes.
No matter what everybody says, it's a business. And you have to look at it as that, because you're still out there. You're still trying to save lives. You're still trying to do what the Lord has asked us to go out and do. And with that said, it's nothing I can just. I love my volunteers. That's all. I love my volunteers. If you listen, I love my volunteers.
Yes,
You make a great point there, where you talk about it being a job. Jesus said, "Occupy until I come." What is your occupation? A lot of times people tend to think, "Well, I'm occupying this chair." Taking up space. But you go to your 9 to 5 and you occupy your chair and do your job, you won't have a job very long. So what the occupy means is to work.
Exactly.
Do something. So I think about how the Lord gave us his best. He didn't just give us, any old body. He gave us the absolute best he had to give, his only begotten son. So my thought is, as we serve, whether it be volunteers or paid, because when you think, oh, you're getting paid, try 80-hour weeks. I mean, there is no day off. I haven't had a day, never. Today is my day off, but I work today. You understand what I'm saying? I know you know, because there's always going to be an on-call situation, whether it's technical, it's a meeting, or it's a planning session. And what's exciting about it for me, I kind of have always volunteered at churches, and then to be a staffer all of a sudden, it was like kind of weird to me. It's like, I don't know how to feel about this. But then I realized how much time I was spending. I was like, oh, okay, there's no way I could do anything else. And for me, I did it backwards. I said I became a staffer, and then my wife and I joined the church, because I said, I'm so ingrained in this. I'm all in. We might as well just be all in, which means every day and everything we have to serve, not just as a staffer, but as a person who's willing to volunteer in other aspects of the ministry as well. So I do that also.
Wonderful. So here's a very practical question. Are there any legal restraints related to social media?
We were just talking about that. Every church should have a crisis communications plan. They should be ready when a crisis occurs. And a part of that communications plan should definitely include a social media aspect to the plan. So I would say that there is some, once things are out in social media, you cannot retract them. You can hit erase, but once people have already seen that impression, then you've got to go into crisis mode. How are you going to react to X, Y, or Z? So yes, there is a legal component to that. Especially when you're talking about defamation of character
Right.
and things of that nature.
And intellectual property, depending upon how your church is set up, whether the music is original, is the music original?
Yes.
You know, if you're doing a cover song of someone, you're doing a recorded artist who has been registered and licensed with ASCAP or CSAC or BMI or another licensing agency, or if the pastor says, you know, hey, I've got an original idea, this is my sermon, this is my intellectual property, do I have it copywritten? So you have to consider those things as well. Is somebody else going to download it, burn it to a DVD or CD and then sell it? You know, so you have to consider those intellectual property opportunities as well. And then also, I used an example earlier when we were off the air, talking about how pastors can actually, you know, sometimes use clips of movies or television shows to help illustrate a point they're trying to make. Well, if you capture that and record that and then send that on broadcast, you have to consider, okay, is that copyright infringement?
Yes.
So yes, you should, you know, consider all of those things, because intellectual property is the new gold, if you will.
That's right.
Yes.
And people these days, they won't hesitate to sue a church.
Yes.
It ain't like it used to be in the older days, you know, where you just, somebody say something about a church or sue a church, the first thing, oh, how you sue a church? But it's becoming more common, more common.
So you must do your research.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People suffer for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
Just because you have the right motivation, you love the Lord, and you're trying to do ministry and trying to help people, but, you know, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. You have, you know, just because you're in a hurry to get to church and you're doing 80 miles an hour in a 55, you still will get a ticket.
Yes. How well I know. So, for each of you, what social media, oh, I just asked that one already. So, in parting, what would you like to just share with us in terms of high-tech praise? What should we be looking forward to do, or what next steps do you think?
Do your homework.
Do your homework.
Do your homework. I just think about the whole Michael Jackson hologram recently that everybody was up in arms. Either you loved it or you hated it, but you can't deny that it caught your attention. And if you're a Michael Jackson fan, you're like, wow. If you're thinking, oh, okay, they resurrected him from the dead, or whatever, the technology was off the chain.
Yes.
You can't deny that. I remember almost 30 years ago going to some science fair, seeing the early stages of holograms with little 12-inch holograms. And here we are years later, they got Tupac and they got Michael Jackson with a hologram. Imagine with some of the ministries that have satellite churches where they actually stream in the pastor preaching in different locations. They have one pastor and he's preaching in 10 different locations, but just by TV. Well, what if he was a hologram standing in the middle of the room preaching?
Wow.
Wow.
That's a great visual.
That's a great
That is a
visual.
great
Yes,
visual.
yes, yes.
It's possible. Just don't think about, think about what is possible. Anything is possible.
And be willing to experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment. You know, don't be afraid. I'm gonna say don't be afraid to fail, because when you experiment, there is a possibility of failure. You know, just like Matt was saying. I mean, with technology and all the things that you may want to do, it's a lot of things out there that you're gonna end up experimenting anyway. You know, because if you don't know it, I mean, just like us three here, we don't know everything about technology. Some of the things we have to play with. You know, it's like putty. You got to play with it until you mold that thing into the way you want it. So I just say, don't be afraid to experiment.
I think high-tech praise is here to stay, but I think that there is a challenge of making it relevant and not leaving people behind. And so in our communications, because high-tech praise is a form of communication, and in doing so, or in so doing, we've got to make sure that our seniors are not left behind, that those who are not tech savvy are not left behind, and that they're still being communicated to without feeling ostracized or left out.
Yes, yes. So important.
That's a hard one there.
So important. Yes. Well, that's all the time we have today, and I want to thank our panelists, Miss Iris Skinner.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Mr. Matt Anderson, thank you for being here. And Mr. Curtis Conyers, thank you as well for being here and sharing your thoughts and your insights. It was very, very helpful to all of us. And so we want to also take a moment to thank those who are here in our audience, our studio audience, and those who have been participating online. So for more of DCTV's 25th anniversary upcoming events, including our Community Day Festival, please check out our website, dctv.org. And remember, don't forget to keep the conversation going on Twitter at #IndustryConvo. I'm Reverend Sylvia E. Sumter, and good night.
DCTV, the nation's community television network.